Hey everyone, it is late and I just realized that I just got off of a rockin' team call. We've got some fun stuff going on and I looked at the time and I went, oh my gosh, I have made a 40-day commitment and I am sticking to it. There's going to be something for me every single day, whether you're watching or not watching. So I want to talk to you a little bit tonight about, hey Lisa, how are you, sweet friend? I want to talk to you just a little bit about the law of the pitcher. And I want you to think about this in the context of not only business, but I think the most relevant example of this is your kids. So for those of you who have children or raising kids, I'm raising teenagers right now, and this, my gosh, is a challenge. So when it comes to the law of the pitcher, I want you to think of it from the capacity of any spectrum that this resonates with you. So I got off a team call and it's so applicable there, but I think of it as I was kind of jotting down some notes and thinking about this, I kept thinking about my kids. And the law of the pitcher is basically people do what people see. This is all about modeling. So if you're in a leadership role, if you're trying to build a business, if you're just simply trying to raise kids, I want you to understand that everything we do is based on visual learning. Sometimes we get caught up with this communication hamster wheel and we think we're teaching or we think we're sharing. It's kind of like what I'm doing right now here with you. I don't know what's coming across, so I'm trying to give you as many real life examples as possible so that you can create a vision and you can create an image in your mind. And I'm really good about trying to connect something to something that I understand or something that I know. And that's what's really important to do. So if you're in a space where you're trying to help cast vision, if you're trying to help teach other people, it's to create a picture in their mind. So I get this question all the time, well, how do I motivate my team? You can't motivate other people. You can inspire other people, but motivation has to come from within. And if they don't see you doing what you're trying to encourage them to do or what you're trying to motivate them to do, it's not going to happen. It's like any of my clients, if they don't see me using product, if I didn't hold true to my core values concerning nutrition and wellness, then I wouldn't be very successful doing what I'm doing. I have to lead by example. I have to model the behaviors that I want to replicate. So one, am I doing the right thing? Those are the checks and balance questions. So how do I motivate my people? You don't. You inspire them. You inspire them by doing the right thing. You inspire them by your words and your actions matching up to what your language is saying. So think of it when it comes to your kids. And a lot of times you'll be doing something, and I'm going to get to this adage in a moment, and we've heard it time and time again, but you have those self-reflective moments where you stop and you're like, gosh, if they only knew, or if you're sitting there and you're telling them, well, you have to eat healthier, or you have to do this better, or you have to do your homework and not procrastinate, or you have to, and I sit there and I'm the one procrastinating on projects, and I'm the one sitting there scrambling last minute trying to get something done, and they're feeling my tension, they're feeling my stress. Well, I'm not leading by a very good example in that moment then if I'm telling them not to procrastinate. It works the same way in leadership. If you're trying to move an organization forward, if you're trying to move people forward, if you're trying to get buy-in, and we're going to talk about that, if you're trying to get buy-in, you have to lead by example, and you have to cast vision. You have to create this picture of what it looks like. So I'm going to ask you, and I want you to take a look at some of these things, whether it comes to family and kids, or whether it comes to business or building an organization, working within your team. Are you sending mixed messages to your people? From the capacity, if you're thinking along these lines, that more is caught than taught. Think about that for a moment. More is caught than taught. So when you're leading and you're leading by example, the message you're sending out, what is your message surrounding integrity? What's your message surrounding trust, loyalty, character, ethics, hard work? So think of all of those and how those values align with who you are, your person, your character, right? And then what you're demonstrating to your team. So as a leader, it's your responsibility to model vision, and I am not keeping an eye on these questions. I apologize. So if there are any, I will come back and say hi and answer any questions, and feel free, as you've been doing for the past many days, to pop me over a PM. So what's really important for a leader to do is connect with their people, with teenagers. My son's a junior right now, right? And I'm trying to connect with him and communicate with him as it comes to, moving on. He's going to be a senior next year. We're looking at colleges. We're trying to navigate this whole thing. What's his vision for his future? And he's like, Mom, I really don't know what I want to do. And I have to articulate to him that that's okay. But the intensity and what's following has to match what I'm saying to him. I want him to understand that we're in an exploratory phase right now, and it's the same thing with your team too. So if your vision for where you're going is being communicated, but the rest of your language in your actions is not following through, is not mirroring what your verbiage is saying, your team is going to get mixed messages. So let me just set the example here for you. And when I am, for example, trying to encourage, this came up tonight. So we're trying to encourage team members to do live videos, for example, interviews, and have conversations and create conversation and do something out of the box, right? In order to gain visibility or challenge them to craft differently in the world of social media. Okay, so we had a little bit of a campaign around that. We're doing a little bit of conversation around that. If I didn't take the lead, if I didn't jump out there, and whether it came across well or not well, if I didn't take the lead and say, okay, you know what, I'll run with it, I'll do a social media campaign, or I'll do something, and that's not necessarily what happened. I'm just coming up with this as an idea for you to understand the context of what I'm talking about this big picture. It's truly nothing more than leading by example. That's all it is. But you as the leader need to take the reins. So you can't push your people out there and make them do something that you're not willing to do yourself. End of story. That's really what it is. So modeling. What does it come down to? I'm going to give you 4 tips for modeling, and then I'm going to let you go to sleep because it has been a long day here. People are always watching everything you're doing. Your kids are always watching everything you're doing. And whether you, and I always used to hear my parents say, and if you've ever heard your parents say this, let me know, but it's they do as I say, not as I do concept. Number 2, it's easier to teach somebody something than to do it yourself. So if that language is part of your repertoire, you have to be very, very careful, because what you have to remember here is it's not what you're saying that somebody's doing, it's what you're doing that they're doing. It's the example you're following. We have this come up a lot of times with regards to doing 3-way calls or different things of that nature. And so I have found that it's easier to train and teach and mentor somebody if they can listen and follow and do something with me. They can participate in an action with me. And it's really funny because I get people all the time from a space that I came from in the past where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do a 3-way call. My friend thinks you're going to like strong arm them into something. Hey girl, how are you, Kath? Oh my gosh, you're up late tonight with me too. And I have to chuckle at that because I simply use it as a practice to learn, teach, and develop my organization, right? I think it's the most beneficial thing that I can do is have them participate in something so that they can model and see what I'm doing. But there's sometimes such a stigma around that, and it just absolutely baffles me. So again, even with the kids, so if I'm doing something with them, I try not to, and it's very easy as a parent to fall into this habit of telling them to do something, but then you not doing it. I think about eating healthy, and I have a lot of conversations like this with parents all the time. that they're trying to eat healthier, they're trying to do better, and their kids are, you know, hearing what they're saying, and then they're turning around and the parents doing something completely different. So they're not modeling the behavior, the vision, the big picture of what they're trying to accomplish. Number 3, I'm gonna stay on track here so I can get off and get you guys to bed. It's change yourself first. So one of the things, the most important things that you can model, it's so easy to, you know, cast a stone at somebody else or think that somebody else needs to change or needs to do something different. They need to change their behavior or their patterns, or they're not doing it quite right. But it's more difficult to change ourselves sometimes. It's more difficult to take a introspective look at what we're doing and say, you know what, maybe I'm not in alignment with what the vision is here, or the long-term success, or the long-term picture looks like. The most difficult person to lead is yourself. And many of you can attest to this. It's easy for you to give advice to somebody else. It's easy for you to encourage somebody else to do something. It's easy for you to motivate or push or, you know, help somebody else. But when it comes to you, and when it comes to, you know, keeping yourself in check and balance, and when it comes to making changes in your day-to-day daily habits, sometimes and often the hardest person to lead is absolutely ourselves. That's number 3. Number 4, most important one, is character. You have to be a good example. There was something that I just wanted to add in here at the end, and when I talk about character, I think about all of the character attributes that, you know, when somebody says, well, what are some positive things about your character, right? What are some positive things about the attributes that you have to offer? And what I really want you to think about is where you got those. Who modeled those behaviors for you at one point in your life? Who was the one who set you up for success? Who was the one that taught you perseverance? Who was the one that taught you integrity? Who was the one that modeled values for you and ethics? At some point in your life, you've picked up these characteristics and these values from somebody that you respect, adore, love, and you've modeled these behaviors. They've become part of you. So what I want you to think about very clearly is the character and the attributes that you're putting forth in the world, and the character and attributes that you hope that your children are acquiring from you, along with your team members. So when you think about team, what are you doing and what are you hoping that they replicate? Have a great night, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.